Hi, how's it going? In this series, we'll be talking about the divinity of Christ. But first, I want to discuss a few important terms that come up quite often when we're reading the Gospels that will help us understand Christ's divinity even more. And the first term I want to talk about is the term or title of Son of Man. Why does Jesus call himself the Son of Man so often in the Gospels? For example, in Mark 2:10 he says, "The Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." And in Luke 19:10, Christ also says, "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." And in Matthew 12:8, "For the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." And even in John 3 verses 14 and 15, Christ says, "And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him may have eternal life." So as you can see, Christ calls himself the Son of Man in numerous places in the New Testament, in different contexts. Matter of fact, over 80 times in the Gospels, Jesus calls himself the Son of Man. It's his favorite title to apply to himself. But why is that exactly? What does it mean? Why does he call himself the Son of Man so often? Sometimes Christians will say, oh, because Jesus is fully man and fully God, and when he calls himself the Son of Man, he's referring to his human nature, and when he calls himself the Son of God, he's referring to his divine nature. While non-believers will sometimes say, oh, Jesus calls himself the Son of Man so often because he's only a man. He wants people to know that he's not God. But what is the truth exactly? What a lot of Christians don't know is that the title Son of Man is actually a divine title from the Old Testament. In Daniel chapter 7, Daniel the prophet had a vision where he saw God, whom he called the Ancient of Days. He saw God seated on a throne, and in front of God were people of different languages and nations, and also the angels. And then all of a sudden, there came this figure, this being, riding on a cloud, and stood before God. And to that person he was given dominion and glory and an everlasting kingdom. And all people of different languages and nations will serve and worship that person. And that person, in Daniel's prophecy in the Old Testament, Daniel calls him the Son of Man. And that's why Jesus calls himself the Son of Man so often. It's so as to tell us that he is the Son of Man from Daniel chapter 7 in the Old Testament. That he is the Son of Man who will be worshipped and served and praised by all people of different languages and nations, and he will have dominion over them in glory and an everlasting kingdom. Because the Son of Man in Daniel chapter 7 is God himself, is divine, the second person of the Trinity, Jesus Christ. So let's read Daniel chapter 7 verses 13 and 14 together so that you can understand what I'm saying. Daniel chapter 7 verses 13 and 14 reads, "I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, there came one like a Son of Man. And he came to the Ancient of Days, and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion, and glory, and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed." Now, did you catch this? The Son of Man will have an everlasting dominion, according to Daniel's vision, that shall not pass away, and a kingdom that will not be destroyed. And all peoples of different nations and languages will serve him. Will serve who? The Son of Man. So if I were to ask you, outside of Daniel's prophecy, who has an everlasting dominion and who has an everlasting kingdom? Who will be served and worshipped by all people of different nations and languages? Christians and non-Christians alike will say, oh, that's easy, that's God, obviously. But here, according to Daniel's vision, it's the Son of Man. So then what does that make the Son of Man exactly? Well, it makes him divine. Now that we've established that the Son of Man is divine, I want to prove to you that Jesus is not just a Son of Man, but specifically that Son of Man from Daniel chapter 7. So let me just give you one example where Jesus clearly shows and proves that he's that very same Son of Man. In Mark 14 verses 60 through 64, Jesus is being trialed, and on his trial, the high priest comes up to him and asks him, "Tell us truly, are you Christ, the Son of the living God?" Christ says to him, "I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven." Did you catch that? Again, Jesus calls himself the Son of Man and says he will be seated at the right hand of the Father and coming on the clouds of heaven. The same way in Daniel chapter 7, the Son of Man will have glory with the Father, being exalted as God, and will be riding on the clouds of heaven. In Mark chapter 14, Jesus is also the Son of Man who will be riding on the clouds of heaven, and will have glory and honor and dominion, and will be seated at the right hand of power. And as a result of Jesus claiming to be the Son of Man, the high priest tears his robe, and then they accuse Jesus of blasphemy for claiming to be the Son of Man, for claiming to be divine, and that's what gets Jesus crucified. I hope that made sense. The reason why Jesus calls himself the Son of Man is because he is referring to the Son of Man from Daniel chapter 7 in the Old Testament. The Son of Man from Daniel chapter 7 in the Old Testament is God, and he is served and worshipped by all people of different nations and languages. And the Son of Man from Daniel chapter 7 is Jesus. And in part 2 of the Son of Man, we'll discuss why the Son of Man is called the Son of Man, and how the Son of Man is divine based off of just Daniel chapter 7 and based off of the Old Testament. I hope that made sense, and I'll see you next time. Peace.